I'm James McLindon. I'm the author of Faith.
Thank you. And you are from?
Northampton, Massachusetts. I lived in Boston for a long time, but I've been in Northampton for a while now.
Awesome. So we're really glad to have you come all the way out to Boulder, Colorado to work with us for Faith. So here's a personal thank you for that.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I've had a great time. It's been a terrific professional experience and personal.
Definitely.
Faith is about a 13-year-old boy named Simon who wants to be God's prophet. And over the course of the play, I have to avoid spoilers, but events transpire such that it appears that he will be. It's a play that considers fanaticism in a domestic setting. And more I think of the play as an advocacy piece for embracing uncertainty and rejecting the kind of certainty that leads to fanaticism. That said, it's not a polemic. It's kind of a dark comedy.
Yeah. So where did you start when you were writing? Did you start with, I want to write a play about religious fanaticism, or?
I think the initial idea, and this was back a few years now, was to write a play that addressed religious fanaticism in an American context. I think we tend to think of fanaticism as something that happens overseas. Unfortunately, the events, especially the last few weeks, have shown us that we have our own domestic Christian, or a perversion of Christianity, kind of terrorism that's going on in this country, and has been for a long time, back to Oklahoma City and before. So that was the initial inspiration for it. I pretty quickly had Simon as the main character and the harbinger who appears to him, and who comes as an angel from heaven.
Those are my two favorite characters, so don't tell them I said that. But just last week there was a mass shooting in San Bernardino, and a couple weeks ago there was another mass shooting not far from here in Colorado Springs.
Right.
How do you think audiences react to your play differently after these events being covered so widely in the news, as opposed to before?
Yeah, I have some sense of that because we've done a couple of talkbacks. So we've actually talked to audience members right after seeing the show. And people are relating it to those things and viewing it as especially timely now. I like to think of it, unfortunately, as a piece that's going to be timely for a while. But those events, I think, have really sharpened people's awareness of what the play is about, those kinds of things, and the dangers that the play is about.
Yeah. On a lighter note. Great. So could you talk a little bit about your actual writing process? I know we had discussions earlier about structure and theme, and if one is easier to write for you and what you usually do to...
Yeah. Well, my typical writing process involves, for me, the hardest thing is getting the idea that I'm going to devote an awful lot of time and years of work to try to get to the point of production. And so that's usually where I start. I try to figure out what, general sense of what I want to write about, as I did with this play. And then the play doesn't really take off until I have at least a couple of characters and who are vivid enough in my mind that they start to talk to each other. A lot of writers say this, that writing is going really well when they feel more like they're taking dictation from characters who actually exist than it does when they feel like they're trying to think of what the dialogue should be. And that's very true for me. I think there are two main ways to approach dramatic writing, and one is the way I do it, which is starting with character and finding your play through them and then finding the structure that goes with it. This other version is the exact opposite, where you start with structure, where you start with plot, and you very carefully plot everything out. You know who your characters are going to be in kind of broad terms, but you haven't really dug into them yet until you've got the structure in place. And then you start, I think, writing scenes and working and developing character. For me, that doesn't work. And I don't say that as a criticism, because for some people it works beautifully, but I think everybody has to find their own way. For me, when I write like that, I get really nice structured plays with dead characters who nobody cares anything about, especially me. So I'd go with the first. And you asked about theme too, and I think theme starts right from the beginning with what the idea of the play is about. But that often changes over the course of the play. Not necessarily with this one, but I have had plays where I think it's about one thing, and then I find out it's about another. I mean, that's a little bit true with this play. It started to be about fanaticism, and it still is, but along the way, grafted onto that was themes of loneliness. Everyone and every character in the play is extremely lonely in some ways. And this exploration of the dangers of certainty in a world where morally, I think, we have to make it up for ourselves.
Yeah. Wow. So there's 4 characters: the Harbinger, there's Simon, Teresa, the mom, and Owen, the science teacher.
Boyfriend.
Yeah. Do you feel like you personally relate to one more than the other, or at least as you're writing it?
Oh, that's interesting. Not in this play. I have had plays like that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a play as a father and son play where I'm old enough now that I can relate to both characters. I feel like I've been in both positions. This play, not so much. I think they're very different people from who I am, which is fun to write and a challenge to write, but mostly fun to get way outside yourself and write people very much unlike you.
Yeah. So where and when do you write? In the morning or at nighttime? Do you have a specific actual process for when you're putting words on
I do. I'm very much a morning writer. Not the 6 a.m. type of morning writer, more like a 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
10 a.m.
Reasonable hours.
Reasonable hours, yeah. And I write till I start writing badly, which happens 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
And I do other things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those are my best hours, and I'm pretty consistent working those hours. When I have to, I will work other hours. I will work late, but that's my most comfortable time to write.
Mm-hmm. Do you go to a coffee shop? Do you have a writer space in your home? Does it matter to you?
Good question. I do have a little office, and I really love it. It's in the front of my house that overlooks the park across the street. And it's a busy enough street that there's enough activity to be interesting without being intrusive, if that makes sense. Writing is very isolating, though, so I do have a coffee shop routine. I often late mid-afternoon, after I've finished writing, typically, I'll go out and get a cup of coffee, because some days, other than, my wife Jackie and my son Connor go off to work and school, and I'm home alone all day, and so you can
themes of loneliness.
When you find yourself, and when you find yourself start talking to yourself because you want to hear another human voice, it's really time to get a cup of coffee and be around humans.
I understand. Do you have any advice for a young, aspiring playwright such as myself?
I think everyone says this, but it's true. You start writing. When you get something that you think is pretty good, start sending it out. Be ready to be rejected almost everywhere, because everybody is. Don't feel bad about that. Don't be too precious about your work in terms of not wanting to send it out until it's perfect. It won't be perfect. And one of the things you have to find, I think, is when it's good enough to go out and start getting developed. And not sending things out until they're at that point. And that's hard to do. But mainly, keep writing and keep going to theater. See, what makes you inspired. When I get stuck looking for a play, I start reading other plays and going to plays, and just seeing what inspires me. It can be a tone, it can be a style, it can be a theme. So you're not plagiarizing. But something clicks in you, and you think, yeah, I want to write a play like that, or about that, or that makes me feel like that. And that's often a good jump start. Write every day if you can, and all those things.
Thank you for the advice and also the time to answer a couple questions.
Sure.
So this is Simon's room. His altar's been disassembled, but all those candles and things and the crucifix will be on a table over there, and that's what Simon prays to. He also has his toys there, which become important in the course of the play because they go away for reasons I won't reveal.
Does it look like you expected it would when you were writing, or how did you
I never
envision it?
envisioned this. I mean, and
No,
partly
never.
I try not to envision it too much because I'm not a good designer, and I'd rather a good designer had a lot of liberty to figure out how to make this set work. And you know, I think they just did a wonderful job. This is the front door to the apartment that Simon and his mother live in, and this is the living room with the tree. So these are the main two rooms, the only two rooms that we see in the house, of the apartment. So that's the house itself. This is the front porch where certain action takes place. But it's also the parking lot of the Walmart. And if you, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but we have, you know, parking stripes down. There's a shopping cart over there. And this is where Simon goes to meet the Harbinger who appears to him. And when the Harbinger enters, I say the Harbinger flies. That's really hard to do on less than a $15 million budget. So what they did instead was this wonderful platform where the Harbinger comes out. And the truss there, the triangular shaped truss, separates in the middle and becomes wings behind her. And when that happens, it's truly wonderful. And so the Harbinger is just above here for much of the play. By herself, except at the climactic moment, Simon gets up there with her. I think that's it. I think really wonderful. There's one last thing. These pull out, these like Venetian blinds, and they can form walls. They turn around, they're black on one side, they're white on the other. And so they're different when it's the house, they're a different color when it's the Walmart parking lot. And when powerful supernatural things happen, sometimes they spin and rotate, and they're just a wonderful addition. This is all stuff I never would have thought of, and thank God for good.
Yeah, as stage left, these blinds are both my favorite and my least favorite because
You have to separate them?
yeah, but they're really amazing. And thank you again so much for an interview and a little tour.
You bet.